Hello, everybody. Welcome to SDEV 220, Software Development with Python. I'm very excited to teach this class. I've been scheduled to teach it twice before, and then it just never got enough students to had too low of enrollment and got canceled both previous times I was scheduled to teach it. So I've been anxious to and have had ideas rattling around in my mind about it for several years now, because Python is a great language to know. The most popular language in the world. Getting to be where we can add by far in that statement, but the other ones are still close behind. And all in all, really, we mix languages and look for optimizations quite a bit. And Python doesn't mix well with other languages all the time. Everything about Python is to make it easier for the human, which kind of slows down the machines. But once that wasn't as big of an issue anymore, Python very quickly became the most popular language in the world. So it's a good one to know. And I have a feeling most people have seen some Python before. The prereqs for this class, the latest shell of SDEV 120, which a couple of y'all had me for that class. The latest shell is using Python now because it came in the Cengage textbook. Not much, just some very basic Python. The SDEV 140 class uses Python. Those are both prereqs for this class. So I'm thinking everybody in here has seen some Python before. I know another student I had last semester turned in a final project written in Python. So I know you know it. Have you encountered Python before, Zach? I'm guessing you probably have.
Yes, I did a little Python last semester.
Okay, so the SDEV 140 class.
Yes.
And then, yeah, Mark turned in an outstanding project in game dev written in Python. So I know he knows Python. So yeah, everybody's seen Python before. So that means we can go, I'm hoping we'll be able to go a little bit further. I put some notes around the Ivy Learning chart. You may have seen them. Not necessarily work too far ahead because, well, since everybody's seen it before, it's probably going to change dynamically, and we'll do some more be able to work in some more interesting things and do some adjustments from the statewide course shell. I often go with the statewide course shell just to be consistent with all the other Ivy techs from across the state of Indiana. But I customize it a little, and especially in this class, everybody has seen some Python before. There'll be some changes from what you've seen before. In particular, in the SDEV 140 class, there are a few things that we do because they generalize better with our other programming languages. We do things in certain ways because it generalizes to like the C family of languages, or the way SQL statements are put together, and a few other places it kind of generalizes to other languages better. But on those things, there's an easier way to do it that's Python specific that does not translate to other languages at all. So we'll see a few of those compared to the SDEV 140 class, and the pure Python way really enhances that. Everything about Python is easier to everything about Python is to make it easier on the human. Less efficient. Sometimes we can see the difference if we write the same program in, say, Python and C++, something fairly decent sized, and run them next to each other. We can see the difference in human timescales. It's not something like nanoseconds or milliseconds faster. We have the computer measure it. So it is slower, but the machines have gotten really, really fast. So that a little bit slower doesn't make much of a difference. So we'll get started with some course policies, and I have some notes about getting started. Oh, and another great thing about Python is it's cross-platform. We write the exact same code and run it on whatever system we want to. Because we don't have to adjust it to be specific for the machine. The really, really outstanding computer experts that put the Python programming language together already took care of that for us. Probably see I already have 2 laptops pulled out in the setup notes I have for this evening. I'm gonna start doing some, after we go over the course policies, we'll do some stuff on the PC. And then my notes say Chromebook, which I wrote those a while ago. I like to get prepared really early, so I was at the beginning of the break. Oh, there's Dylan. So those, I'm pretty sure that I said do the Chromebook, because that's the only machine that I have Jupyter notebooks locally installed on. So probably on the notes when we get to the IDEs. Hello, Dylan. We're just kind of starting to talk about Python a little. I know you saw Python before, so everybody in here has worked with Python a little bit before, so I'm gonna treat the class a little bit dynamic and try to get into more interesting things than just that most basic intro sort of thing that the course shell has. I made notes around, so they'll change dynamically, or it might change dynamically as we move along, because I think we'll be able to adjust a little and go further, get into useful things with that. Oh, I have to let the other computer in the Zoom call. So we're going to start here with some course policies, which those who've had me before will probably recognize most of them, because I tend to do all the course policies in very, very similar fashion. One without audio. Continue without audio. Oh, I don't need the camera on there. Okay, so I'll go ahead and share my screen here on the laptop. I like to bring my laptops over here, that way in the middle of the room, not way over in the corner. And I am on campus, so it's y'all's choice. If you want to join me here on campus, and it's in the computer lab 158 in Ogle Hall, or on Zoom call, but I can see you all already on the Zoom call. Yeah, I'm very excited about this class. I've been wanting to teach Python for a while. It is a great language. Okay, so I'll go back and forth and keep trying different things on the homepage for the course shell. Lately, it's been something like this, just some notes, some general notes with some links that'll be important. The Zoom link, and one of the repositories on my GitHub, which we'll talk about GitHub very shortly. It's going to be a big thing in this class, but not really. We're not going to have a GitHub lesson, but we'll talk about that in a moment. And then the to-do list, obviously it's a weekly to-do list, so that'll change quickly, and that'll be a good place to, hopefully that'll be a good place to look and get a quick summary of what we're doing each week. In general, I'll be sending out announcements for anything important though, so if you have your notifications set up, you should receive announcements. As always, the course policies should be spelled out in the syllabus. We'll just hit a couple of key points here. Once my computer catches up, for some reason I could not sign on to the staff Wi-Fi from all of my machines. So at least 2 of the machines I brought with me are signed on to the guest Wi-Fi, which is the slowest one here at Ivy Tech, but it does still work. And then Zoom calls slow that down a little bit more. So there's my cell phone number. Text messages and Ivy Learn messages make noise on my phone. In our modern world, there's a lot of things that want to send you notifications. So during the semester, the only 2 things that make noise on my phone are text messages, and the ones things sent from the inbox here in Ivy Learn. Regular emails I will see before long. I check my email constantly. There's my office phone. It's a landline in an office. So every once in a while, maybe every other week or so, I remember that there's a landline and check the voicemail on it. But it is still there, so you can definitely call me during office hours at least. Voicemails might take me a minute to get to. But text messages and Ivy Learn messages make noise on my phone, so that's the quickest way. My office is in Ogle Hall. I don't think anybody that had me last semester came by the previous office, but it moved over to 160, which is Skip's old office. Anybody who Skip is retired, if you had not heard word yet. I should put quote marks around that. Skip is retired. He's still teaching as an adjunct and volunteered to fill in a whole lot of gaps on the tutoring schedule as I was putting that together. But that's a different point. But yeah, he retired, so I moved into his old office, which is in Ogle Hall 160, straight across from the classroom I'm in right now. Let's see, a few office hours. I'll be there at those points, and I have a Zoom meeting that I called office hours. I will try to be logged onto that, but can only be in one Zoom call at a time. And most of the meetings I have to attend are Zoom things. So I may not always be on that Zoom call during the Monday through Friday office hours. If I'm not on another Zoom call, I will be. And I do like to do office hours on Sunday. Weekends are a time when most people are working on their homework. So in the past, it was been in the chat room, always in the chat room on Ivy Learn. But usually the messages that came through were just quick notes of, can we jump on the Zoom call? So this semester, I'm going to go ahead and do that on the from that office hours Zoom call. So there's the link to that. Sundays at 4 to 5, which that's not a restriction. You can ask me questions anytime. Middle of the night, send me a question. I don't mind. I'm always happy to help. It's just those are the times that I know I will be sitting there dedicated to those purposes. Other times it might catch me in the middle of something and be a little while, but it won't be long. Some other information y'all can read. The supervisor, if there's a problem with Ivy Learn, here's the links for the Ivy Learn IT specialist, the Ivy Learn specialist in the statewide IT department. So that you can get right to them if you get a problem with Ivy Learn. Disability support, I always like to point out, there's a great department here. Lots of accommodations are available. They're really, really helpful, especially for people coming out of high school. When you're in high school and under the age of 18, all of that is handled for you. It's automatic. You don't even have to think about it. But once you're at the age of 18, it's considered personal and private information. So it's not automatic anymore. You do have to go get started with it. Basically, you just have to let the people in disability services know that you need accommodations, and they will set you up with everything. All you have to make that initial communication with them, because it's not automatic like it is for people under the age of 18, like in high school. But there's lots of accommodations available in a great department that will get you all set up with that. And if you need any help getting a hold of them and stuff, just let me know. I'll be happy to help with it. Learning Commons is sort of a new thing. What used to be the library has been remodeled. A lot of the books were removed. Things have gone digital, so there's still some books, but we don't need all of that space just being taken up with books that are sitting there that nobody ever grabs because they look it up and look up a digital copy for it. So a lot of the books were moved out, bookshelves, and there would have been some comfy furniture and nice little workstations. There's free coffee in there. The tutoring's up there as well. I'm in there quite a few quite a few hours a semester. I would there was some big changes. I ended up making the schedule for that. Threw myself on there for a few places where there was really big gaps in the schedule, trying to make sure it was covered. So there's definitely help for this class if you get stuck in there, but help for lots of different subjects and stuff. But it's also just the learning commons in general, just a comfortable place to go study. And free coffee. There's a Keurig in there that's well stocked. So if you just if you're around campus and just want a cup of coffee, go get that. Ivy Life, all the clubs and stuff. The computer club was currently not on there, but it will be back on there soon. I did check with one of the people in that department recently, and the paperwork is moving through to get the computer club back on there. Ivy Cares, I always like to point this one out. Everybody needs help from time to time. And in our modern society, there's lots of help available. But finding that help, figuring out if it is the help you need is available or not can be a challenge. And then finding the applications. So somebody kind of consolidated things. The second link here, this ivassist.ambertha.com. Somebody went ahead and consolidated some things so that knowledge of that help is all in one place. So this isn't directly the help, but this is a list of links to the applications to get the help. Nicely formatted so that if you need some help, this is a great place to go search for it, because then it's one place to go search for what's out there. I live in Clarksville, so I'm going to put that zip code in. That's the one that's always stays fresh on my mind. And when the Wi-Fi catches up, so you can see right there, 1,887 programs of help available around Clarksville. And that's a small town. Not very big compared to some of the other cities around our state. What's a good one? Pay for gas. That's an important one. I bought gas yesterday. I think it was $3.09, $3.08, $3.09. But it's over $3. That adds up pretty quick. Oh yeah, right at the top of the list. A lot of people don't know about this one. If you work in restaurants or used to work in restaurants, and that's the government's still paying for your gas. If you work in restaurants or used to work in restaurants. So that's a really useful one. Some other ones, healthcare support. There's different emergency programs, there's money out there for veterans, a lot of programs. That's one of the worst ones to dig through the paperwork and find the application and stuff. So all the VA sort of paperwork is nicely consolidated. If anybody's a veteran and has seen the mountain of paperwork that is needed just to get to the application. This database has links straight to the application you need. Be quick, just click on food pantry. I think I clicked on those same two yesterday. Several people in both classes. Probably could have picked some different examples. There's lots and lots of help available. Everybody needs help from time to time. There's a food pantry here on our Salisbury campus, but in modern America, there are food pantries all over the place. But that is a really useful link. Just we all need help from time to time, and it's sort of a consolidated place to look for the help that's available and links right to the applications, which anybody that's done that before, that can sometimes cut out hours and hours of the process, just knowing where to look for it. Now the course stuff. So this is the book for the course. Introduction to Programming using Python, Daniel Yang. He writes really good books. It's been the standard. His books have been the standard for Java for going on 20 years, it seems like. start in the 10th, 11th edition sort of things. So almost since the beginning of Java, which for decades was the most popular language in the world. And then Python surpassed it. And this is the book he wrote for Python. So he writes really good books, thorough descriptions without getting too far down rabbit holes. Kind of right to the point and stuff. I have it printed out, but I forgot to bring it, so which might be good because then I can point this out. So it's not a Cengage book. Actually, I probably should have removed that link. I guess I'll keep it there just in case you need some other ones there. It's a Pearson book, so you want to go to the Ivy Plus bookshelf. And here's the e-copy, which started it all from the e-copies, and I meant to bring it, but then grabbed the wrong book when I left the house this morning. But it's not a very big book compared to some other ones. It's not exactly super short, but if you go to the Ivy Plus bookshelf, you should see something like this. Can I get a confirmation from somebody? Have y'all seen that on there? Are you looking at that same thing if you click that link? Has anybody tried yet?
I just pulled it up. It's showing for me.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I see different things, and like sometimes I'll click that button that says student view, so that I should be looking at what you all see, but then things are still linked to my account. So I see this, I've seen that happen a couple times, so it's like confirmation. But yes, he has a really good writing style for talking about programming. His books have been the standard for Java for several decades, and he's writes about other languages too, because he definitely knows more than one. I get back over here. Course outline of record. The thing in this section I always like to point out is this little list right down here. It says major course learning objectives. Just like the name implies, that's the things we're supposed to learn from this course. And especially if a course you take is a prerequisite for another one, every class you take will have that listed out on the syllabus. Right here at the beginning, y'all can read over it. But the reason I like to point it out, and I'll remind you when we get near the end of the semester, that's the list of things you're supposed to learn in this course. Not just this course, all your courses. So when we get near the end of the semester, you always want to make it a point to go back to hop back on the syllabus and look at that list and make sure you feel like you've learned everything on that list. Because especially if courses are prerequisite for an upcoming class, the other class might expect you to know those things. General policies. So like we're doing here tonight, I will be in the classroom. If you want to join me in the classroom, that's fine. If you want to hop on the Zoom call, that is fine as well. Do not expect class to be canceled. If there's weather issues, I will broadcast the Zoom from home. So the classroom, the be in the classroom part might get canceled, but go ahead and expect the Zoom call to continue running, still running. I'll just do that from home. Yeah, I have a big chalkboard at home. Most of the people in here have seen pictures of my chalkboard. I have a great big chalkboard at home, so I can still just kind of do the same lecture. Yeah, y'all can see those notes, the times, grades, due dates. So for even those who've had me before, always seems important to stress this out. What you see in most of your classes, where everything is due at the same time, right? Probably 11:59 on Sunday night. Even with the change in schedule to the Wednesday to Tuesday schedule, a lot of classes still seem to have kept their things due at 11:59 on Sunday night. I don't feel that's very good preparation for the real world. That's not how the real world works. So I like to change things up. There's sort of a general policy, but the due dates are not going to be that quite as consistent. And the late policy changes depending on what it is. So make sure you keep up on due dates and times, because I don't think anything is due at midnight in this class or 11:59. Oh yeah, the final cutoff for the semester, the point when nothing else can be submitted is at 11:59 p.m. But otherwise, make sure you keep up on the dates and times. The late policy is some things are accepted late and some things are not. So things labeled as assignments. Well, right now, the college is running on a Wednesday to Tuesday schedule, which I kind of like because that opens up the weekend in the middle to do homework and ask questions, right? And attend the first day of the month, first 10 class on Monday and Wednesday, have the weekend to work on homework, and then have at least a Monday before that module ends, so there's a chance to ask questions before the homework is due, not afterwards. That often seems like an issue with this everything due Sunday night, is if nobody starts to work on their homework until the weekend, they're not going to know they have questions, whether they have questions or not, until almost the due date, and there's no chance to ask them ahead of time. So for us, well, we're starting on Thursday, and class is a Tuesday, Thursday thing, and the modules are stretched out. It's 8 modules, but we're doing it in 16 weeks. So basically, we're going to have 2 weeks per module, which is really nice in the programming class because this is an active subject. We learn the most by doing and practicing and writing code and writing more code and writing lots and lots of code. That's what we learn. So our modules are stretched out over 2 weeks per module. So the programming assignments are basically going to do every other week, right before the next module starts. So tonight, 6 p.m. this evening started module 1. Next week, Tuesday and Thursday are part of module 1. Following Tuesday will still be part of module 1. That's the 2 weeks on module 1. So then module 2 starts the Thursday after that. Whatever the date is, 14 days from the 19th is the 3rd, right? Yeah. 2nd or 3rd, whatever day that Thursday is. Our class starts at 6 p.m. So the homework will be due at 5:59 p.m. 1 minute before the next module starts. Anything labeled as assignments can be turned in late, but there's a 3% deduction every day until it gets down to 40%. I can't remember whether I said it to 40 or 50 in yesterday's class, but I double checked. It stops deducting at 40% because at that point, the grade on that assignment's an F, whether it gets turned in or not, but it's still a recoverable F. Plenty, there's still some points there so that it's not quite as disastrous as if the computer goes ahead and deducts all the points. Oh, and the computer's applying that late penalty. The stroke of 6 p.m. counts as late. There's no wiggle room for when a deadline is set in the computer. But assignments can be turned in late. Just keep up on the due date. Setup assignments, those I do not accept late. That's things like the software you need in order to carry out the classwork. So in our case here, we're gonna need an IDE. Can't remember if there was points for the IDE or not. I did ask you to let me know which one it is. That way I can make sure I at least have all the ones people are using installed and try to use that at some point this semester. There may be a couple points on it. But that's a setup assignment for here, which obviously has to be done no matter what, because you're not gonna be able to put your programs together without a place to write the Python code. Because yeah, even if you just want to use a basic text editor, that'll be fine. just tell me what environment you're working in. It doesn't have to be an integrated environment. As long as there's a place to type code. Yeah, I learned to program back in the late 1980s. So there's a pretty good chance that at some point in this class, you're gonna see me just use concatenate in the bash shell or something. And bypass even text editors altogether. And just concatenate ASCII code or concatenate Unicode straight onto the CPU. But yeah, I don't need a text editor. Just send it right in. So as long as you just let me know what environment you want to work on. It's not the best way to do it, but I might do it for small examples if we're in a hurry or something. And lots of different ways to write code. So that's another thing I was going to try to make, since everything's stretched out. We have a couple weeks per module. Try different IDEs. Right? For that assignment, let me know what your main one's going to be, but give other ones a try. See what you like or don't like about them. Because there's a lot out there to work with. Discussion boards, I do not accept late. It doesn't do a very good job, but what discussion boards are supposed to do is take the place of conversations you would have with your classmates. Right? In the traditional classroom, everybody shows up at the same time, listens to the lecture, and leaves at the same time. So you're walking from the parking lot to the classroom, and then from the classroom back to the parking lot at the same time as everybody else that is listening to the same lecture you just did. So those conversations that would happen going up and down the halls, or when you see your classmates at lunch or something out around campus, those little conversations is what you have in common that might show up as a topic of conversation is the class you're taking together. That stuff contributes to education. It contributes to your gaining knowledge, and it is very much missing from electronic scenarios for course delivery. So discussion boards were supposed to take the place of that. I don't think they do a very good job. I guess it's better than nothing. But just like a real conversation, show up an hour late to a party and walk in and your friends are like, oh, we just had the greatest conversation. You can't join in it now. You already missed that discussion, right? And so I treat discussion boards the same way. If you miss the topic of conversation, you miss the topic of conversation. You can't join in it if the class has already moved on. So make sure those are turned in on time. Quizzes are the same schedule. The module for the due date for the module 1 minute before the next module starts. 3% deduction, just like the homework. The quizzes are only open for 1 more week, which does seem different in this class than in some of the other classes. Because in most of the classes these days, there are 8 modules in 8 weeks. So it's 1 module every week. So if you're late on the quiz, you have until the next module starts. But my policy is 1 week on the quiz, 1 week on the quiz. So we had 8 modules in 16 weeks. We're doing 2 weeks per module. So that quiz is only going to be open halfway to the next module, basically. And again, the computers keep the track of it. So it's 7 days from so 5:59 the following Thursday, I guess, for this class. So pay attention to that, but hopefully that won't be an issue, right? Everybody's gonna get the quizzes turned in on time anyway, and then you won't even have to worry about those late penalty issues. Exams are different though. This is where I can implement the things that I don't like about those steady due dates. That's not good practice for the real world. You have exactly 1 week to do the exams, midterm and final. And you want to keep up on dates very, very closely. They don't open or close at midnight or what you would assume is a reasonable hour. And the amount of time you have to take them is what you would get if you punch the amount of minutes into a calculator. That's how long the exam will be open for. Exactly 7 days. So pay close attention to those dates. and times. But I'm not trying to trick you with that either, so as that approaches, and then while it's open, I will be giving lots of reminders about it. But you don't want to pay close attention to the exam due dates and times. Which the exams aren't bad. It's two parts, the bunch of questions that come from the same question bank as all the quizzes, followed by a programming part. So nothing really exceptional with them. The weekly programming assignments are the ones that are that's probably going to be dynamic as I get a better sense of what different people's skill level with Python is and change things up. Or just come up with interesting ideas, because that happened this afternoon. Or it actually happened yesterday. I didn't get a chance to type it up till this afternoon. I looked into the default makeup policy, drop dates and withdrawal dates. So drop is like you never took the class to begin with. That's for times like when course names change and you register for something. They get there the first day and be like, oh, I already had this class, they just changed the name on it. That and you want to drop it, but a drop won't show up on your transcript. It's like you never registered for it to begin with. You only have a couple days to do it. Since this is a 16-week course, you have until February 1st to drop. And if I haven't heard from you by then it'll I'll have my group drop people, but everybody on the course roster is here tonight, so that automatic drop's not going to be an issue at all. Withdrawal's different. A withdrawal is just sometimes life happens, and you don't want you're gonna get overwhelmed with life, and other things take priority over your schoolwork. You don't want to end up with an F on your transcript, so you can withdraw and it'll put a W on your transcript, which I believe gets replaced whenever you do come back and finish it when you're not quite so overwhelmed or something. You can do that up to the end. And between those dates, so February 1st is the day after the last day you can get 100% of the money back. You get 100% of the tuition back up to the day before that. So that's the first day there it starts to go down. Then every day the amount you get back when you don't finish a class or withdraw from a class goes down until April 19th. And that's the first day there's no refund left. Online communication etiquette. Everybody enters adults. Sometimes, quite often, they're high school students getting a jump on adulthood and taking college courses. And if you're in a college course, I'm going to treat you as an adult. That's because you're getting a jump start on that, regardless of when your birth certificate says that cutoff line is. That line separating them, because it's not a binary state, right? There's some wiggle room in that transition between transitioning between childhood and adulthood. It's not a solid line. So if you're in a college course, I assume I'm gonna treat you like an adult. Really send out the emails of which high schoolers are in my courses, and I just click on it to make the blue dot go away and didn't read any names. So I just go ahead and assume everybody's an adult if they're in my course. Because regardless, that's just a technicality, which I don't really observe that technicality, because if you're in a college course, you're ready to be an adult. So please act like it. As far as what's expected of adults to act, sometimes over the past, sometimes you hear news stories and it seems, I'm going to drift off in a rabbit hole there. So yeah, please just treat everybody with respect. And when you make comments, don't comment towards each other on the discussion board. Be polite and respectful, and all the normal proper behavior for for our civilization. But moving on, in the contract, it says I'll respond to emails within 36 hours. If you don't hear from me within 12 hours, something bad probably happened. Text messages and Ivy Learn messages are the quickest way. They'll make noise on my phone, but I check my email probably 50 times a day. So emails I will see before long, and I will usually get back to you pretty quickly. The inbox is the official communication channel. Notifications, if you go to your profile, you can adjust how and when you get your notifications. You can control which devices it gets pushed onto and what time, like once a day or immediately or once a week. I have lots of control over that. If you go to your profile and between the link that says notifications and the link that says settings, there's lots and lots of control over that. You can have it pushed to a text file on your Google Drive so that you can go get those whenever you want them, instead of having to hear a beeping noise. Well, it looks like I copied some stuff twice there. A little copy paste error, those happen sometimes. Okay, so now the course assignments. Discussion boards, you can see it's a very small number, and the first one doesn't, is one of the assignments I like to give out. Isn't quite like a discussion board. We'll see that here very, very shortly. That's gonna be one of the first things we look at. There are quizzes throughout the semester. So there are quizzes built into Ivy Learn, and then there are links to the author, the webpage that goes with the textbook, has some other quizzes. The ones that the author's companion site, those count as assignments. So then they follow the assignment due date policy, which means they're going to be open till the end of the semester. And for those, I couldn't figure out how to sync it to Ivy Learn, and it wasn't already. People hadn't already did a version that was synced to Ivy Learn, like normally happens with some of the Cengage books, the MindTap or Learn Smart. I can't remember the name of it for a minute. Or My Math Lab or Revel. Those things aren't actually synced, but the companion site for this textbook, I couldn't figure out how to sync it, and what the course statewide course shell was after you get 100% on the quiz, or after you take it, take a picture of the results or copy and paste the results over. The instructions are spelled out in the first assignment. Might be in every assignment, so at least in the first one. Programming assignments are sort of the big one for this class. That's where we're going to write Python code. It's an active subject we learn by doing. So that's where we're going to learn the most, by writing code. And there's basically one assignment per module, but there's 4 to 6 things in each assignment. Several programs. There's a big one that only has 1 or 2. 1 or 2 is not, I shouldn't say big. Larger than some of the other ones. Still a long way from a big program, but it's but there's several things to do in each of the assignments. And that's the one that might change dynamically as I get used to seeing how you all do with Python. Everybody's different skill level. A couple of the people in the class I already know have pretty good skills with Python. So I have a feeling it's gonna be like that for most of the class at least. So the programming assignments might change dynamically as we learn more interesting things. Because 16 weeks there's still a lot more about the Python programming language we could go over. I talk like an auctioneer up here for 16 weeks straight, 2 hours twice a week, and still not say everything that is, still not cover every single point of that language. programming languages are huge. So we will see quite a bit, and I'm hoping to get into more interesting things. A couple exams, talk about those. We'll talk about more when we get close to them. The final project. Oh, those notes are wrong. I got rid of the group project from the statewide course shell. So I'll go to that. I'll update that here in the syllabus. The statewide course shell had a final project, but I changed that. So, any questions about the policies on the syllabus? Y'all can read everything should be spelled out there. I apparently forgot to change the note in the syllabus about the final project, so that seems like a good place to start when looking at the sort of assignments in this class. So it's there are alternatives. Final project, here it is. Oh, there's a link to this document. So, well, that's going slow. Basically, there's two options to choose from. I like alternatives, and there's two kind of big things we can do with Python with programming. Really, there's three. So we're omitting the third one and do what's more traditional programming. We could either write a library or a module or a library or Python package, which consists of this that set of lots of modules that we can download and add to the Python programming language. When we use pip to add extra modules that didn't come in the default language. Either in a library like that or Python package. There's different ways we can handle the manifest. It's actually lots and lots and lots of ways we can handle the manifest. So I am going to ask for the manifest in the standard Python format, the one that's actually recommended by the developers of Python, and then backed up by the Py people. PyPL is how it's usually abbreviated. You may have seen their name on something. But we will talk about all that stuff before long. But that something that includes the standard manifest has multiple modules that anybody could just import into their version of, or install in their version of the Python programming language and then import into any of their scripts. So basically write a bunch of modules so you can import them. Highly organized things, there's some criteria there. And the manifest, we will see that before too long. The manifest is, well, it's like the traditional word for that. It probably wasn't mentioning in the SDEV 140 classes. Traditionally, that word would be used like a ship's manifest. The list the captain keeps in that has everything that is on his boat and says why it's there. We have the same thing when we put together programs. We need something to tell the CPU everything that is part of that program and why it is there. So then as you went with that traditional term of manifest for it, there's lots of different ones. And the official recommendation for Python splits it up into several different files. Because following that trend in Python to make it easier for the programmer. The different types, some of them are easy in one section and harder in another. So Python just picked ones that we use the easy section out of several different methods to put the manifest together for Python projects. Is the official recommendation for Python, which means that's what the pip installer, the preferred installer, preferred installer package is what PIP stands for. That's the official one. So pip wants that sort of broad spectrum type of manifest where it's spread out among several files, which is really nice because then it's easy. We don't have the hard part from any of those types of files. And Anaconda also does that. So if Pip and Anaconda do it, then anything else that wants to call itself Python installer should probably do what those two do. Because one of them is the official one and the other one is the highly suggested, even by the people that put together the official one. It's highly, very, very popular. You'll, as we study Python, you will definitely see the names of both of those. I will be using Pip here in class, just to keep from getting overwhelming. Alternatively, we could do to a library, we could make a traditional GUI. So make a good, some GUI application. And I'm gonna ask for certain standards of how the thing will look. We'll talk about that as we get closer to it. Just conventional things, what you would expect from it. Like, we'll see a lot of them in the text editor. I'll just open that real quick. That's a good place to point at these things. There's certain standards for how we should put an application together, the graphical user interface. Because users will expect certain things. And when a user's trying out your software looking for a new one to use, you really only have a couple seconds. So if they open it up the first time and can't figure out what to do on it in a few seconds, they're probably going to close it and get something else off the list. But it's things like file locations up in the title, that main menu up top, a status bar down at the bottom, hopefully with functionality. A lot of those things, the typical that you would see in lots of software. That way it's almost intuitive for people to use. I'll ask for that. It's a couple weeks before we get to GUIs, but one thing that the statewide course shell used the TK interface package, which is also used in the SDEV 140 class. It's a traditional one. It was one of the earliest. Or quite a few GUIs were developed before that, but it was a well organized one. That pretty much all the GUI packages we use anymore seem to follow what they did in that package. The point is, it's been around for a long time, so it looks a little outdated. Well, we might use a different one. It does accept CSS, so you can use cascading style sheets and make TK interface stuff look a little nicer, a little more modern. But there are lots of packages, and since everybody here probably saw the TK interface package in SDEV 140, we might look at a different one when we get there. I'm thinking WX Python. WX Python is probably my favorite to use. Everything is highly organized in it, so that the entire package follows the same pattern framework, and it's native GUI. So it doesn't, the package doesn't define what a button is supposed to look like, or what the top level menu is supposed to look like the way TK interface does. The package asks the operating system what a button is supposed to look like. So that way the same code you could open on a PC and it looks like the normal window that you would see on a Windows machine. You take that same code over to Mac and open it. It looks like the normal window for a Mac. So native is the package that a native package asks the operating system what a GUI is supposed to look like. So those always look modern. And that's one of my favorite to work with. So there's a good chance we'll see that one. The TK interface package also has another advantage though too. It was one of the early object-oriented ones. That's why everything kind of followed it. The trials before that were sort of before object-oriented programming. And it's available in pretty much every language. If you started naming programming languages, just about everyone you've heard of, and then a few more, you can still use the TK interface package because it's a classic. It's a legacy. It's all over the place. It was written in a language called TCL. Python was one of the languages used to originally develop Python was TCL. So TK is fully integrated into Python. Sometimes we have to import TCL in other languages, but sometimes it's already there for us. So that TK interface package is available sort of across the board in software development. It's a definite advantage to that. But when we get closer, we'll kind of figure something out. There's multiple links to get to the Zoom stuff. There's the blue link over to the left. That's probably the main one. But I don't have any control over that page, so I always like to make a second Zoom page that I have full control over. So that's up at the top under, go to modules, under resources. Okay, some of this stuff, this is a 200 level class, so I am assuming that everybody has been through a couple classes on Ivy Learn. It's not, this can't be anybody's first course at Ivy Tech. So kind of skimming over some points. I'm gonna go to module 1. I'll set everything up here so you can read over it for the general layout for the course. The biggest thing, well, Ivy Learn, while this pulls up, on Ivy Learn, the modules are the recommended order if you work through the course material. Like always, there's lots of links, multiple ways to get to them, but the modules are the order I was thinking about when I put this stuff together. So I started with the statewide shell, customize it a little, but expect it to be dynamic, especially the programming assignments. So you might not want to work too far ahead, but because it might change before we get there. In a good way, because I'm going to base it off what the work I see from you all and make sure that we're learning more and we're not just going through the motions. Y'all can read this. So what participation points, I used to do this all the time. I'm bringing it back. I wanted a way to reward people that are consistently at class and working along, following the examples, taking notes. Really in this sort of subject, following along the examples. So the in-class examples is we work through things. If you give me copies of those, I'll put some, that's what I'll pull participation points from. A small number, that way it's kind of like a reward for the people that do it, but not a punishment for the people that don't. Y'all are adults, you can make your own decisions. So basically, we're going to use GitHub a lot. It's going to be a tool that's coming up in a couple of pages. We'll talk about that a little bit more. But if you set up a new repository on GitHub, on your GitHub account, you can create lots and lots of separate repositories. Just load up the examples to that. That's how most of the classes are going to go. I'm going to kind of work through some examples. Those had me in 120 and 140. They were always stripped down examples. I guess the game dev course was kind of stripped down, but it was still a little more focused than the at 120 and 140. But there was stripped down super generic examples. So there'll still be some of that just to focus on the syntax, but it'll be a little bit more interesting at this level. We'll find some more interesting things to call a generic example at the 200 level. So following along those, or in all of my programming courses, what I always did is I tried to do something similar to what the instructor was doing. Maybe not exactly the same, just something similar. That way I felt confident that I was understanding the concepts, but it was still close enough that the question could be asked if I got stuck. But if you give me your practice work, that's really what it is. This subject takes practice. We get better and better and better by writing more code. So give me your practice work and get those participation points, which looks like a lot from the number. The statewide core shell had 1,800 points. So that looks like a lot of points, but that's only 5.6%. Normally I do 5% of the grades there, so that last little bump up to the full points for a course. Okay. Y'all can read through some of these. I'll have to go back over the assignments thing. I wrote those out, and so you can read through it. If you have any questions, let me know. Somewhere on there is the GitHub thing. I guess I'll talk about that. So repositories are a very useful tool for programmers, a very important tool for programmers. You'll see them all over the place, almost critical. Because it's not like any place else where you write our code. So in module 1. But I was thinking as the break started, I was kind of thinking that what those like single lectures that show up about GitHub, with what those cover, we might as well be putting our code on Google Drive and hit the share button. We're not seeing any of the power and usefulness of repositories. For example, did you know that Git, the name there is the actual command we put in command prompts and stuff? That's where that name comes from. It is something that computers do. Repositories aren't like basic, simple storage on the cloud. In Python, we can import stuff right from GitHub. We don't have to download it and install it locally. We can import stuff right from GitHub. Or we can do local installs that are nothing except a GitHub. And the Python language will be fine with that. We don't need all of those files, they're stored online. And then whenever we import it, it'll just do that. So the more powerful thing, there's a lot more power there. We're not going to really have a lesson on it per se, as so much as it's just going to be a tool I'm going to use in all our class examples. So I'm going to use it like the normal software development tool it is, and pick up little bits and pieces of it and see the difference between repositories and it's not normal storage. But that's all that seems to make it into those basic lessons. Like it might as well be just normal storage stuff. So we'll be using that quite a bit. Oh, and then the thing to download that connects to GitHub directly, it also comes with a bash shell that is configured to run Windows. A lot of people forget this these days, but bash is not part of Linux. Linux uses bash. Bash predates Linux by about 15 years. And bash was a replacement for something that was a replacement for something that was a replacement for something. So it definitely predates Linux. It's the Unix command. And when you download this, you get a bash shell configured to run Windows, which is really nice because people who have worked with other systems, Mac and Linux systems obviously use bash. The latest versions of Mac, they wanted to update to C, which is a cousin to bash, and you have to get pretty advanced before it's different. Chromebook is a Linux system. It's a Gen 2 Linux system. It can go in, it's open source, so you have full control over it. Almost full control. The only thing we're not allowed to do on a Chromebook is we cannot change the ability to get back to a factory setting with one click. So you cannot change the ability to do a factory reset on one click. But that's probably a really good thing. But along with that, there's also a desktop that it's built into them. And on my Chromebook, it was turned on by default. So it's not even an extra feature that you have to add on. There's just a Debian Linux desktop sitting there. So it's two Linux systems. Actually, Chrome OS is a Linux network, but that's a different class, but controlled by bash. So Windows is the only type of machine that isn't controlled with a bash shell. That's the command prompt or terminal. So if you have a bash shell to control your Windows machine, all of your operating systems are controlled with the same language. That's really what bash is. It's the language. And what we think of as the bash shell is where we type that language. But we'll see that before long. That's just a useful thing because then all of your operating systems are controlled by the same operating system control language. Makes it really useful. But we'll just be using Git as a tool and see the usefulness in repositories. It's not a simple storage thing. Which I was hoping to do in the first example, but might be a little bit behind. But we have lots of time to practice this stuff. Oh yeah, I know what I'll look at next. I signed you all up for another course too. Did anybody notice that on there? I went ahead and took the opportunity to sign you all up for a course. So I got a bunch of AWS, or I was working on a bunch of AWS certifications over the break and updating some other certifications because those expired. Expire every couple years. But when I went through this one, it was like, okay, machine learning, AI and machine learning is going to be very important moving forward in the world. And it's mostly done with Python. So it fits with the subject we're studying. This is not a course requirement. It's just something that I thought this is going to be important moving towards the future. And if I sign you all for it right now, the bill for it's covered. It was from, I'll say the school's paying for it. The school's covering the bill for any AWS usage right now. But I feel quite confident that that would be somewhere on the fees if you got out the full itemized fees that you paid a bit for it. Not the full price that you would if it wasn't there and at some point later it just becomes important and you need to learn about machine learning, especially on AWS, because that has passed a third now. So it's approaching half of the cloud, already past a third and growing still. So AWS machine learning is going to be very important. Click the wrong link. So I went ahead and signed you all up for the course. There's a bunch of short video lectures. It took me about a week to get through the video lectures, the labs, and I was doing a bunch of other stuff at the time. So it was just pacing around during the break. And periodically when I was like, starting to feel bored, what should I do? I'll watch it. I'll jump back on that course, and it took about a week. For the most part, the labs, you can just read through them. They're in Jupyter notebooks. You can read through them, run that cell, read the code. There's two where you do actually type code in. And one of those two takes forever. It says it up front. It's like this lab takes 350 minutes. And that one takes a while, but you do the whole process. You filter your data, you train the model, then you re-implement the model and run the model and take measurements and go back and retrain a new model based off that. And yeah, it's the full process. So it takes a minute. But I signed you all up for the course. You should have received an email. Has anybody got that email? Yeah.
I got the email. I'm set.
Yes, in the past, I was able to go on AWS and I would tell them classes started a week early and ran a week longer. But they switched systems, so now the new system, there, I wasn't able to set the dates. They already knew the dates and times that the class started. But there should be a link that you go to get in, log in. I have a different link. But once you're there, it should look quite familiar. But this is just something I thought would be useful for you all. It is not a requirement. I might put some extra credit points on at the end. Stretch it out over the semester. It's just a bunch of short videos and labs to work through. And learned about machine learning, which is mostly done in Python. So and there's that. Well, actually, let me talk a little bit more about this. So there's actually become a problem with machine learning because a lot of people with like master's, doctorates, really high level educations that did all the research and got it figured out, convinced businesses that it was a great idea and they should implement it. And hospitals, particular hospitals, jumped on the idea and like, yeah, this should be implemented in businesses. So they started implementing this. And now they need employees to run it. But people with doctors aren't going to be sitting there for doing what those employees running it for those businesses. They're not going to pay enough for somebody with a PhD level in computer science to sit there and do the things for their business, right? There's a big opening thing. Intel actually put an entire course together and approaching community colleges all across the US because they put the entire degree program together. Like we wrote the classes for you, here's PowerPoints, here's lecture notes. All you have to do is just register students for it and do it because there's an immediate need for this. It's very, very important because all those fancy researchers sold businesses on it while they were developing it. So it's working pretty well now. Businesses have bought into it. Hospitals have bought into it. That's an important one too. But the people that know how to work it, all those fancy, with their fancy doctorate degrees and stuff, doctoral degrees and all that, they're not going to go do that for those companies that they convinced to buy into it. So there is definitely a need for it. That's why I signed you up for it. It's an important class. Like Intel themselves put together a college curriculum and then approached every community college around the US because they need people to do it. Machine learning is mostly data first. Once the data is set up right, they'll do that. So we use Python to organize, clean up, and filter and polish the data. So this course goes over that. That should look familiar, right? It's right there on Canvas. You all won't quite see that much if I click the student view button. There's a whole lot of tabs there that don't have anything on. All those tabs, most of those tabs are blank. Yeah, you'll see just a couple tabs. Just hop in modules, and there's a bunch of short videos. I think the longest video is probably 10 minutes. If the videos start to get long, they just split them up. So there's short videos. Most of the labs are pretty short. There's one that is really, 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 really long that they tell you ahead of time that it takes like 350 minutes. So you'll know when you get to that lab. So yeah, if y'all got the emails, you should have access to that. That's just something I feel is important in the world. It's mostly done in Python. The entire AWS thing is done in Python, except for a little bit at the end with like SML. That's the markup language to tell Polly what to say, or tell Polly how to say things. Polly is the voice for Alexa. But something important for the as we move forward into the future, and it's critical. Like big companies like Intel are investing fortunes to get community college graduates ready to do AI ML. So it's going to be an early jump. Like the first college graduates with the Intel program are graduating this coming May. So there's an immediate need for it. That's why I signed y'all up for this. So definitely worth your time, but not a requirement. Your choice whether you want to do it or not. You should have the email there. 2:45. So this is 7:45. I just kind of set up, but this course is going to be stretched out for a while. I don't know if we'll get to too many examples this evening. I was hoping to be a little bit further than this about 15 minutes ago. Sometimes I get distracted. I probably got distracted a couple times talking up here. Oh, I'm going to go to the assignments tab. That's why I don't see what I'm looking for. Oh, should I click the right button? there's one more, well, one more of the big assignments for the semester. Those who've had me before probably seen this one. Again, me more than once, it is due in more than one class. So you probably heard me say this before, a few of y'all. But the story behind this one, a few years ago, the VP for the School of IT, all the way across the you're checking out Sellersburg campus. While she was down here, she had lunch with a few of the local business people, the technology firms and stuff. And they pointed out that recently they had turned away some 4 and even 6-year graduates, like masters in computer science, because their knowledge was 6 years old or longer. Even longer for the master people with a master's degree. Because at the 4-year schools, they put a program together and then students go through on that program and it does not change as they graduate. So people are graduating with 4-year degrees and their knowledge was 6 years old. Just kind of a long time in technology. So that they said they turned away some 4-year people with 4-year degrees because of that. And I thought, well, that's an easy thing to fix. So y'all have to write y'all have to do an assignment proving to me that you know how to stay up to date on technology. That's important to know what work field you're in. And well, in the modern world, that should be an interesting assignment, right? Basically, it's go look up some technologies, find 3 interesting things, and write a paragraph on each one. But that's important no matter what field you're in, you need to stay up to date. So practice at that. This is a software development class, so I added some links for some software development sites to kind of get you started. MLA formatting on an essay and stuff. That's traditional, the way essays have been done since long before computers. That's going to be another point we'll talk about here in just a moment. For the idea I had today, the first place I worked in an alternative, already changed the assignments if anybody looked at it yesterday or something. I didn't change the assignment, I added an alternative method for the assignment. The other essay is Python essay. And this is the one, this one I'm a little bit more concerned about. This isn't anybody's first semester, so I'm gonna do a couple classes. Essays show up everywhere, so I assume you've used Microsoft Word or Google Doc or something, I were to. I feel it's safe to assume that you know how to use the buttons in Microsoft Word to format paper to look the way you want it to look. But this is a programming course, software development. So I think it's more important for you all to be able to make the buttons to format things. So that's what we're doing here. The essay is a history one or something. It's just the filler for the part I'm actually interested in. I want to see you make those, maybe not a button, but at least the functions that button would call to do some formatting. Oh, I'll update this. You can see it's my generic template. So apparently I forgot to put Python there. Y'all know what language this course is over. But you'll make something that displays. Don't worry about printing yet. Printing is really easy. We'll probably see that in the odds and ends at the end. It's on the list of odds and ends, but printing's not important as it once was. So there's other things that I would give priority unless when we get there to the last couple weeks of just random stuff after we've covered all the main objectives. If somebody is interested in something where printing would apply, I'll move that back here at the top of the list. But we might see it. We have 8 modules in 16 weeks, so we'll be able to see a lot of material. But on the page, you're going to make something that looks like the essay format. Kind of the way you'd look at the paper with showing there on Google Docs or Microsoft Word. Y'all know what document editors look like, where you see all the formatting there, right? Some things are aligned to the left or right. Some things are centered on the page. The page numbers are there. That can be a little bit tricky because you can't just insert text to get a page number. things, like all the formatting stuff. And I think I asked for one citation, and the citation, don't type the citation, make a citation generator. We have like a dialog box pop up, and you enter like the author's name and the name of the journal where the research was published, and the date, and then it generates the citation. Because that's what software developers need to know. I feel quite confident that you all know how to use the ones in Microsoft Word or Google Docs or EasyBib or any other ones that are out there. But we should be learning how to make those in this course. I'm much more concerned about that than the content of the essay. That's just something to do with it. So one more thing before we get to the discussion board. Module 1 programming assignment was something I learned yesterday. I already put something in here. So I just mentioned those essays, right? The MLA formatting or APA formatting, header sections, page numbers. Hasn't changed since it was written on a typewriter, right? That's how essays were written in the 1930s, before the invention of computers. I'm always looking for more modern ways to do things. In the game dev essay, ask for animated essays and try to change things up. But as you probably guessed, the Module 1 programming assignment is all about the basic syntax, right? The things you have probably seen in SDEV 120 or now, or SDEV 1, at least SDEV 140, or somewhere along the way. We talked about that earlier. Everybody here has already seen some Python. So that basic stuff, which really makes those assignments out of the textbook trivial typing exercises, right? You know the Python part, so it's more of a typing practice than the Python part, just to get the basic syntax. But there are buttons over here in Ivy Learn that we can use to enhance that. I know you all only have one of them, but I can't remember which one. Do you all have Studio on the green navigation or the blue course navigation? You have one of these. Does anybody see it on their page? Is anybody looking for that?
I'm trying to find it. Where is it in assignments?
Oh, I was looking for these navigation links. So on our
Oh, gotcha.
something in the course that says Studio or something.
Uh,
The overall canvas navigation that says Studio.
yeah, I click on Studio and this is nothing here yet.
Okay, on the green or the blue?
On the green.
Okay, yeah, they say you only have one of them, but it, I can't remember which one she said you all have. I don't have. So for the assignment, I added some stuff. Instead of that trivial practice in typing, since y'all have probably seen this before, you can still do that. Notice the words alternate there, so it's your choice. Something maybe more modern. Does anybody look up a tutorial about something on Python on YouTube at this point? I'm guessing you probably have, right? Or if you prefer written, you've at least seen the links for the YouTube ones when you were looking for that. So that's the alternative. I typed this up very quickly. This is still full of errors. I will retype it and make it grammatically correct because I did it this afternoon. And I didn't even have my textbook with me to check what those chapters actually covered. But basically use the Canvas Studio to create a thing. Also made a short video. It was at my office computer that doesn't have a microphone on it. I have no idea why I use that computer because I had 4 laptops with me and and a phone. So I had 5 computers or 5 devices that did have a microphone. For some reason, I jumped on the one that did not have a microphone to record the video. But this has screen capture stuff. If we go, I don't know why that's not loading. You should see a video there, or maybe I need to fix that. But I just learned about this, and you all have screen capture software here in Canvas. So an alternative to that basic syntax from the book is make a tutorial. This one just popped in my mind yesterday when I heard about it. So I haven't done a lot of testing and stuff. My preliminary thoughts are like 8 to 10 minutes because it's a screencast. So basically, you're gonna record your screen while you talk and create Python talk and explain to somebody about the basic syntax of Python. But to do it, all you do is hit the record button. You go to Canvas Studio, you'll see there's a button here that says record and screen capture. And the very first time it will open something, but it uses Screencast-O-Matic, which is a really nice one. And it's a paid for version. So Screencast-O-Matic free one is nice. It's a really nice one. It has a little logo in the corner. So this is the paid for one, so it doesn't have the logo. So first time it will want to install it. You'll download the file, click the exe, and then when you come back, it should be ready. Okay, they'll show you all that now. And relaunch the screen capture. I don't know what I did. I'm gonna reload it. Yeah, I've only used it once so far. There it is. I was just getting impatient, I guess. Oh, sorry. So you get this little, you see the box there of what part is being captured. You can set it to the webcam, or the both will embed your little embedded picture of you talking down in the corner. I'm sure everybody's seen those type of videos before. If not, give it a try, see what it does. We have 2 weeks for every module here, so there's plenty of time. You can change it to part of the screen, full size, adjust those. You can see the microphone. I have no idea why I didn't use this computer on that test video earlier. And when you're ready, you just, there's some other things you can change. And it is a paid for account, so everything's covered there. Just hit record, it gives you a countdown, so you can do a little bit of editing if need be. Oh, I gotta get these thumbnails out of the way. I'll open up the software here. Probably should have opened that before. For those who have had me in class before, assuming you use, I think I use PowerShell in the fall semester. I'll probably be using this, a bash shell this semester. That way it's the same on every machine. Oh no, CD documents /delete. I'll list what's in the document, so I also, yeah, just something there. And when you're done, for your homework, obviously write Python code, something like that. Just hit pause, and then you can keep going, and you can delete what's there or edit through it or do different things. But when you're ready, you just click done, and you have the options to save these things. It's real easy to use. Give it a title, class test 1, blah, blah, blah. Some sort of description, and when you hit upload, it puts it right back on Canvas. So it's there, it'll be there. Probably gonna take a moment here, but I thought that might be an interesting alternative to those, what's probably trivial typing practice for people who have seen Python before. So those first few chapters are just the basic syntax. Like this is what an if else block looks like. There's probably one of them that's just an if one. And then you have another one that's if else. And then another one with if else. And those sort of textbook examples in the chapters probably don't get more than 2 or 3 else, so it's not even a very big example. This might be more interesting. So, you know, y'all know that stuff you've seen it before, or you'll get some practice with it before the due date here for this module. So alternatively, you could just make a video showing somebody how to use it. Just narrate the videos, like this, the syntax for an if else block, and conditions go to this, and tips here and there for things that you've learned about Python that a new user might like to know. And there's spots to put comments and things in there. Let's take it a minute. Oh, actually, it's uploaded, but the thumbnail's not showing yet. Yeah. So very easy to make a screencast recording. And that is very popular, decent quality, good quality screen recorder, Screencast-O-Matic. There's a free version that cuts some of their features out, but this is the paid for version that has everything. It doesn't stick your logo on there. So I just thought that might be an interesting alternative for that basic syntax. Give that a try. Put together a tutorial. I'm just guessing at time there when I say 8 to 10 minutes. So whatever it takes to tell people about this stuff from the first 4 chapters, which is going to be like basic variables, the fundamental math. You don't have to get super detailed about any of it. Just kind of cover it in the screencast. And if selection structures, if else, or if you install Python 3.10, you have match case now. I was hoping to get to environment variables tonight so we can see how to have more than one Python environment on your machine at a time. But it looks like that's going to be pushed back to next week. And chapter 4 probably includes while loops. So just that basic stuff, maybe a tutorial showing people how to do it. Something a lot more modern than the traditional assignment, especially for the first trivial one, which you all have all probably seen before. But it's an alternative thing, so it's your choice. And once that's recorded, there's a download button, so you can upload it back. You can download it and put it on there, but there should be a way to share it with the submit, the regular submission to the gradebook. Just share it right from Canvas Studio. But I just learned about this yesterday, so I haven't learned all of the features of it yet. I was just like, oh, this is perfect for the old modern assignment thing. A good first alternative to that. And our first discussion board, I'll just end with this because it's coming on the end of a 2-hour class. I guess I've got used to 4-hour classes. And I was actually thinking of get through environment variables and kind of cut out of class about 20, finish the lecture about 20 minutes early. Yeah, our class is an hour and 50 minutes long, but I'm intending some of that to be lab time. Those will have me before. We'll end this during lab time. The Zoom call will finish, but I will be sitting right beside my computer waiting for my phone to make noise and jump back on the Zoom call in a split second if there's questions during the portion of class. You can ask me questions anytime, but that first one is just, or the lab time portion of class is when I know I will be doing nothing but sitting beside the computer waiting on questions. Speaking of questions, words that often seem to flow out of my mouth during lectures are beyond the scope of this course. And if I say those words in a lecture, beyond the scope of this course just means beyond the lecture notes, beyond the homework assignment. It is still fair game for questions. So, especially with Python, everybody haven't seen Python before. If I start to say that, it's still, you can ask questions if that fits your interest. So the discussion board, it looks like a couple people turned it in. Basically, you're gonna write a program that introduces yourself and upload the picture to it. So I think I have to hit the edit button, the point of the button. We go ahead and edit this. Yeah, so make sure you use this button to take a screenshot of the code in the output, a screenshot of it. And then afterwards, after you get the screenshot, make sure it shows there. Then use the little paperclip to attach the Python script. And it's like a program that introduces yourself, that introduces you. So I will write a quick example here, similar to what's there. All three. Hopefully that won't take too long to open. Zoom call seems to slow it down, so I'll make something in Python here. Because I also wanted to upload something to GitHub here. I'll make a new directory. Class 1. Go into that. We will see. Not so much of a rush soon, and I'll just make a new Python file. Make a new file called disk.py. That's a good name. Example of the discussion board, and I'll just use BI since I'm here in Bash. Just use a simple text editor to write a Python script. So basically what you're gonna do is you just need to store some variables about yourself and then concatenate sentences together to have a program introduce you instead of writing a description for yourself. So like for me, name is, let me do this first. Escape. Is that better? Is that text size everybody can see? Hopefully. There we go. So for like me, name equals Chris. Job equals teacher. And just to keep this quick, you'll have a certain number of data points about yourself and you calculate together sentences. So like output 1 is so this is something we didn't see, at least in my SDEV 140 class. We went with the way of formatting strings that generalizes better. Python has a super nice way to do this. So I want to concatenate some variables into a string. So what we saw before is we could do something like start with that variable plus some more words, blah, blah, blah. And that's the one that generalizes better. Python has a better way to do that. So we put a string, and right before it, we put F to say, format this string. I'll just do this in a print statement. There's no need to save it. You can save it somewhere. And, I'll just try to keep it as easy as possible for this first example. So we put that F there, and with that F in front of the string, that means format it, so we put our variables right in there. You don't have to worry about any casting or anything. Python will handle that. So like in curly braces, and write the name of the variable. Works as a job. And just put all of that in there and say, whoops. I mean, BI, whoops, what does it say about? Right, quick. There we go. So now if I run that. Oh. Did anybody notice that? If you see me make a typo, feel free to say something, because I'm talking and typing at the same time. Those are both strings, so they need to be strings. These are quote marks. Let's try that again. You see that put that string together without any worrying about casting. Oh, I should put some casting in there. I need something with numbers. So insert age equals 43. There we go. That's not a string. That way we can see it do something different. And Chris. It is 8. Okay, so you can see when we do it that way, put an F in front of the string, then all we need is curly braces and the name of the variable we want to put there. And we don't have to do any of that other stuff that we kept doing in the SDEV 140. But this is Python specific and it doesn't translate to other languages very well. Most other languages have something they will try to call print format, but it is still considerably more complicated than Python's. So that's what you're going to do on strings. Much easier than what you would have seen in the SDEV 140. Just stick an F in front. We'll see what happens when you put a B in front of a string very, very soon. And then that makes that easier to work with. So now maybe I want to put this on GitHub. Just to start using this as a tool. So that's there. I got it over here in this thing. I guess this is the first look at this stuff. So here's the file with the class example. So I have all that. Actually, I'll just do it from the command prompt. Because I was going to show you the GUI first, but I can do I know the words, so it's going to be much quicker if I just use the words. It's like, okay, the coding's done for today, so I'm going to stick this on the repository to save it. So cd documents delete. Whoops. /delete. I've got Python on the mind. Try to do a dot for an address. So I'm going to make a new directory here called get stuff. And see. I'm just going to pass an initialize command. So you notice that git, as in GitHub, is just a command that I put in the bash shell. Okay, and notice the in parentheses. I'm working on the main branch. We'll talk about this when we're not pushing the end of class. So Git. I had a bunch of steps I was gonna do, but I'm running out of time here right now. What's the bare minimum? I'm on the branch. I guess I should down that, or connect that. Git remote and, oops. Git remote and origin. Yeah, I'm gonna type the name because this is the one we would copy, github.com/Francis-Chris5 for me, and then I set up one called SDEV 220-spring 2022, and then .git at the end, because it is a Git. So you can at least see it didn't throw an error message yet. Git forward. Did a bunch of stuff. And you'll notice here, oh, there's at least a README file. We haven't looked at it yet, but there's that GitHub repository. Now it's on this local machine. So I can go up here, grab this stuff, copy that new file, bring it in here, although I could have just worked with it here. Up to that to do a typo there. Oh, let me try this again. Git full origin. I'm gonna delete all this stuff here. Go back up here. Git full origin main. So I have to say I want the main branch. A repository, we have lots of branches. There we go. Now the folder's full of a bunch of stuff. So I can paste in those new ones. Come back over here and git push, git commit -m. This is one we always have to do. Commit must have a name. First class example. Oh, whoops. Git add dot. Dot refers to the file you're in. So if you need to refer to the directory you are currently in, you say dot. So we're gonna add that in. Now git commit -m first class example. There's one file changed with 8 lines in it. Git push origin. We'll do this, it should just take a second. And now if I go over to my GitHub, just to show this, probably won't normally do this last step. And hopefully it's gonna take less than a minute. Sorry. The internet looks like it's gonna take more than I'm gonna make it there by the time the clock goes around. Oh, I gotta sign in. No, signed in to GitHub. I'm always signed in to GitHub. Sorry, be just a second. I'm just going to point that these files are on here. So that new file is on here just to kind of show that using it as a tool. We will see all that stuff soon. Actually, the instructions for what I just did are on this repository. So there's actually that link is on the homepage on Ivy Learn. At the top level here, there's instructions for what I just did. But there's that new file. You see the new example pushed in. So we don't have to go to the internet and do that like we would have seen in SDEV 140 class. The Git and the name on GitHub is an instruction we put in this bash shell. There's a GUI to work with. It's a lot easier than the words, but if you know the words, those can be a lot quicker. Sorry, that went a couple minutes longer than I was thinking about. I had a whole lot more stuff to talk about because I'm excited to get into this class, but it looks like it's 7:50. And we have 2 weeks per module, so we have a lot of time. We will get started with some Python stuff on Tuesday. I forgot what day it was. Sorry for the little bit extra there. Y'all have a great weekend. If you have any questions, let me know. Everything's pretty spelled out to get your thing set up and ready to start working on Python in our next class session. Before, because everybody's seen Python before. If y'all have a good weekend, I will see you on Tuesday. Oh, any questions before I stop the video? Okay, and that's what I'm gonna do with GitHub. There's not gonna be a lesson on it. We'll just see how to use that as a normal tool as we develop software. It can be very useful. So that was about it for tonight. Our class was scheduled for 7:50, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, sorry for going a little bit over. You all have a great night. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording.
All right. Thank you. Have a good night.